So as we all know, there have been more Epstein files released, and they're horrific. Let me start by saying that everything in there is an accusation, but there is a lot of sworn testimony under oath, which is far more than the people who are implicated have done. They haven't sat down and told their side of the story under oath. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. It's kind of related. What I really have been thinking about a lot lately is the Bible, and more specifically, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. I am not a Bible expert. I am not religious at all, but I do read and follow many Bible scholars. I think the Bible is fascinating as a book of history. You know, I'm a huge fan of history, so I've learned a lot about the Bible because I'm interested in history. I'm not a Bible scholar, I am not a pastor, and I'm not here to debate theology in comments. And I know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah the way most Americans do, as kind of a cultural reference. Many of us know Sodom more than Gomorrah because the root of the word sodomy came from Sodom. So we all have an idea about what the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is. We think of sex. We think of deviant sex. But that's not at all what Sodom and Gomorrah was about. That's really only part of the story. And the story is a city so far gone that even the Bible uses it as a story of societal collapse. And what I want to talk about today is what I think is the darkest political irony of our time. Hi, I'm Carolyn. This is my channel, As I See It, where I talk all things politics. And yeah, I've been on a roll this week. I've got all this nervous, anxious energy that I am funneling into this channel this week. I'm kind of on vacation from my other channel. Kind of, yeah. But let's talk about this. I think this is a fascinating irony. We'll call it irony. I'll be kind and call it an irony rather than a hypocrisy of our time. Christian nationalists and evangelicals and many MAGA Christians that I personally know have spent decades decrying gay lifestyle, trans, even loose women, you know, the whole slut-shaming thing. They have blamed women's rights as the fall of the family and the decay of society and gay woke people, and they have been citing those things as turning America into Sodom and Gomorrah. And then they elected leaders and the kind of movement that actually fits the story of Sodom and Gomorrah to a frickin' T. So I did do some research, so I'm not talking out my ass here. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna unpack this a little bit. For years, we were told the greatest threat to America, to society, was same-sex marriage, abortion, drag queens, trans kids, wokeness, pronouns, bathrooms. We were told that America was under judgment of their God because of sexual immorality. And they used Sodom like a weapon, right? But Sodom isn't just a story. It became a political marketing slogan, kind of like saving the babies. And it became a moral panic machine. Again, like saving the babies. A moral panic machine. That's what they created. And this is on purpose. But here's the thing. Even as a layperson reading about Sodom and Gomorrah with actual Bible quotes, it's not just about people living differently behind closed doors, living their lives to their truest selves. That's not what it's about. The cities, both Sodom and Gomorrah, they were right next to each other, so they got lumped together, were notorious for grave wrongdoing. Not what people were doing behind closed doors, but what society was perpetuating, what society was embodying as a people. And it wasn't about just sex. It went way deeper than that. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is about a society rotting from the inside, about arrogance, about cruelty, about violence, about corruption, about the powerful preying on the weak. And in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, God sends angels to investigate. And that detail matters because a lot of the right-wing Christian MAGA have been waiting for the second coming of Christ to save them from what they think is modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. The gay people having loving relations behind closed doors. But that detail matters. The fact that God sent one of his angels down to investigate, according to the Bible, because it implies something. It implied that the city's reputation was so dark that heaven itself had to come down to see if it's true. And when the angels arrived in Sodom and Gomorrah, what did they find? Not a city of harmless personal sin. Personal sin, according to the Bible. Whatever sin is, and the interpretations of the Bible are all over the place about what sin actually is according to the real teachings of the Bible, and that has been contorted and twisted for personal benefit of the powerful, as we know, and to keep this moral panic machine going. But it wasn't about personal sin. It wasn't about, the angels didn't come down and condemn the personal sins of people. No. The city was condemned because it had become a cesspool, a society of people who wanted to dominate, exploit, and humanize others. And ultimately, the cities were destroyed, traditionally by fire and brimstone. Total collapse. They found a society where people wanted to dominate, exploit, and dehumanize others. They were eating your dogs and eating your cats. They're rapists and murderers. They're filthy scum. They're unhuman. Those are things that the current guy in the White House have said about immigrants. Hold that thought for a minute. So when I look at America right now, if there is a God, if there are angels, this is exactly the kind of place they would be sent to investigate. Not what gay people or trans people are doing in their own personal lives that aren't hurting anybody. Being gay doesn't hurt anybody. Being trans does not hurt anybody. Being a powerful woman who wants to work does not hurt anybody. It's a personal choice. But they would be sent here to investigate because we have become a society where the rich and powerful have become untouchable. And the vulnerable are disposable. The victims in the Epstein files. These Epstein files were released. They redacted the name of the rich and powerful and left the names of the victims. These victims had been making claims to the FBI, reporting this behavior to the police and the FBI for decades, and nobody listened because these were rich and powerful men. We have created a society where cruelty is our culture. People have been convinced that the others, this moral outrage machine, that the other people are what is causing the collapse of America, and cruelty has become a culture. Greed has become holiness. How many of those evangelical churches out there are like, pray for money, pray for riches? God wants you to be rich. God wants me to be rich. So it's okay that me as a pastor in your church or on TV rides around in private jets, because God will also give you that if you give me more money. Greed has become holy. And lies and fear have become patriotism. And where predation gets a pass. As long as the predator votes the right way, hates the right people, hurts the right people, and it's okay that there's going to be some collateral damage. That's the society that MAGA has created. So Christian nationalists said, we must stop America from becoming Sodom. And what did they do? They empowered a political movement defined by corruption, cruelty toward immigrants, open contempt for the poor, outlawing homelessness, sweeping them off the streets. Not in my town. They're disgusting. I don't want to look at them. Authoritarian impulses. Yeah, I may not like him. He may not be the most Christian-like guy, but I trust him anyway. He's devil himself. I mean, if you look up the devil in the freaking Bible, the Antichrist, they voted for it. Sexual scandal after sexual scandal and moral lawlessness. We're seeing that wrapped in the flag and wearing a cross around its neck. Yeah, that's where we're at. Moral lawlessness wrapped in patriotism with a cross around its neck. It's okay for ICE to execute people in the streets because at least Trump is doing something about those those filthy animal illegal aliens. Do they hear themselves? Do they actually fucking hear themselves? No, they don't. Because if they did, they'd be outraged as we are. They didn't stop the collapse of society. They sanctified it. They put it in power. They gave it the keys to the frickin' kingdom and said, here, Antichrist. Here's the keys to the kingdom. Because heaven forbid gay people should fall in love and do what they do behind closed doors. Heaven forbid someone who has felt their entire life that they were in the wrong body do something about that for their own personal mental health and well-being. Heaven forbid. But at the same time, it's okay to elect a child predator. A guy who admittedly groped women without their consent. A guy who had, 34 felonies? Who has a career of robbing people, of not paying contractors, of stiffing people, of horrific business ventures. After he bankrupted a casino. You gotta be a special kind of stupid to bankrupt a casino. Or you're laundering money. So they didn't defend morality, they defended power. They defended their own power. This Antichrist took the throne, took the stage, the Antichrist, and said, I care about you, and you Christians are superior to everybody else, and those woke liberals who want to ruin everything with trans rights and gays rights and black rights and immigrant rights, they're just trying to steal from you, and they're trying to kill your religion and, take your religion away from you. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about the things that the Antichrist accused the half of America of in order to drag these Christians down into the cesspool of Sodom with him. And here's the thing. Even as a layperson who has probably actually spent more time actually studying the Bible for its historical meaning, its true meaning for what it was written for, than probably most people who go to church every Sunday, honestly. Here is what I know about Jesus. Jesus didn't spend his time raging about marginalized people, the poor, the immigrants, the people who are hurting because they're not allowed to be their true selves in a society of hypocrites who want to ostracize them. Jesus actually, what did he do? He spent his time condemning religious leaders who loved power. Yeah, he condemned religious leaders who loved power. And what's the Christian right doing now? They're defending them. Here is one thing I am very sure of. There have been a lot of Christians in my life, like many of us. Christian is the main religion in our country today. And here is one thing I 100% am able to recognize. Christian nationalism is not Christianity. The real Christians, as I've called them, and there were a few who fell into that bucket of a real Christian until I saw posts on their Facebook about wokeness and such. I'm fortunate to know some real Christians who did not vote for this, do not condone this, and think it's absolutely horrific what is going on, who really follow the teachings of Jesus without the veil of, the shroud really, of fear that these Christian nationalists have wrapped around them in order to pull them along and control them so that they can maintain power and steal and rob from us blind. Christianity is not Christian nationalism, and I can recognize that. It's just nationalism, period, wrapped in the cloak of Christianity, using Bible verses as branding and turning God and the Bible into a political weapon. I think it started way before, but abortion is definitely a big one. You guys know the story of the whole anti-abortion thing, right? The reason the church picked that up as a political tool was because they didn't want to integrate their churches. I have to do a whole video on that one day. True story. So they decided that their next big cause needed to be to save the babies because they didn't want to integrate their churches. True story. Look it up. Nationalism, cloaked in Christianity, is really about turning God into a political weapon, treating cruelty as strength, Remember, what's this whole thing right now going on online about empathy is weakness? Do you think Jesus would have thought empathy was weakness? It's calling domination by one sycophant order. This is what we need to we need a daddy figure. We need a godlike figure to bring order back to our country because of the gays. Those gays. And this Christian nationalism is making an idol out of the nation, making an idol out of the leader, and draping it all in religious language. God obeys the laws. God would be behind ICE because God was about law and order, which is a fucking joke. I just watched, do you watch Monty Nader? I'll put a link to her below. She's one of the biblical scholars that I follow. I love her. She's amazing. She used to be a Christian nationalist. She used to be evangelical. She went to evangelical schools and colleges and was very embedded in that cult. And she went to college and started studying the Bible. And I don't really know if she's an atheist now. She might be. Most biblical scholars, actually, they were raised evangelical. They start studying the Bible and then they become atheists. But I'm not sure if she is. But she was talking the other day. She did a video, and I'll see if I can find it and put it below, about all the ways that Jesus broke the law. He was a lawbreaker, rule breaker, left and right, in order to stand up for the marginalized people who the powerful were stepping on. That's what Jesus is about. But now they've twisted it and say that we need to idolize this dictatorial leader, daddy figure, godlike figure who is mean and cruel. But it's okay that he's mean and cruel because he's being mean and cruel to save Christianity and to save me from the heathens. This is not revival. This is rot. From the inside, we are rotting. So they warned us that gay people, trans people would bring Sodom. It would bring the end of society. But what they actually bought was corruption, cruelty, exploitation, and moral collapse. You want to talk about moral collapse? We have an administration who is protecting men and a few women who essayed fucking kids. And it looks like there might even be unaliving going on. There are calls that they need to start digging up his golf courses, that people were actually unalived. There were rumors. These are all rumors. This is all alleged. There is no proof of any of this. There are witness accounts of this that were taken by the FBI. We don't know if the FBI ever investigated them, as they should have. But again, rich, powerful men. They fought an imaginary sin. What gay people do behind gay doors. They're very pretty rainbow-colored gay doors, but what gay people do behind closed doors. Made up sin, while excusing the real evil that is rotting our culture, our society, that is actually hurting people. I am a survivor. Many of you know that. My father. And I'm going to tell you, as a survivor, and I'm so glad that more women are talking about it, that does not go away. I don't know if men think sex is just sex, but when you do that to a freaking child, it changes your world. It changes your brain chemistry. There's a reason I struggled with addiction and alcoholism and other risky behaviors my whole life. It changes you. Whether you're a child or whether you are an adult, that kind of violation changes you. And what are Christian nationalists, evangelical Christians doing? They're flipping over backwards, denying it, excusing it, justifying it, because at least they're saving us from the gays and the brown people, right? Fuck you. They were terrified of drag queens. Remember when drag queens were all the rage? They were terrified of drag queens and made peace with real predators. They became what they claimed to fear. Every day, more Epstein stuff. Well, even when he was elected in 2016, we are living Sodom and Gomorrah. Our society is rotting under the name of God and piety and sin from within. Fucking unbelievable, isn't it? So yeah, I may not be a Bible scholar, but I recognize moral inversion when I see it. So if Sodom and Gomorrah is a warning, a true warning, it's not about people living differently. It's not about people doing what they do in their own houses behind closed doors and not hurting anybody. It's a warning about what happens when a society protects the powerful and sacrifices the vulnerable. The children of immigrants, the immigrants themselves. Like I said, most immigrants they give up everything because their country is so dangerous or so uninhabitable. They can't make a living. They sacrifice everything. Can you imagine giving up everything? Many of us are there. Do you know how hard it is to want to pack up from your country and leave? That's how bad things were. They come here to make a better life for themselves and their family. And for what it's worth, all you ICE enablers, they're not picking up criminals. They are picking up people at courthouses, at their jobs. What you've bought into, hook, line, and sinker, is a white supremacist move to ethnically cleanse our country. Period. That's what it is. You don't see them stopping white people. There are lots of white illegal immigrants from Russia, all over the world, Europe, all over the world. Do you know how many illegal immigrants are here who are white? Do you see ICE in their neighborhoods, knocking down their doors? No, it's the fucking brown people. It's the brown people. Stephen Miller is a white supremacist pig. Look it up. And you have fallen for it. Hook, line, and sinker. They're using you to further their ethnic cleansing. Sound familiar, 1940s Germany? So yeah, I think there's a reason the story of Sodom and Gomorrah has been on my mind. I just can't help but notice the irony of the people who have been sold this Bill of Rights, that people who aren't actually hurting anyone, who are just living their lives true to who they were born to be, you were somehow convinced that they were the threat while excusing people who are actually, on paper, hundreds of reports, hundreds of testimonies from underage girls. They were underage, they were girls, children, and now they're women. Trump was accused in 2016. You ignored it. You fucking ignored it. Ignored it. Because he promised you salvation or fucking whatever. So again, the real story of Sodom and Gomorrah is about greed. It's about ruthlessness. It's about a society condoning violence, condoning hurting the marginalized, sacrificing the vulnerable, and calling it righteous. It's righteous. We are on the right side of the Bible. We're on the right side of God. Expelling by brute force, even killing people, expelling immigrants is righteous. God would have okayed this. No, Jesus would not. So this is the real fire and brimstone. This is the real collapse of a society. And guess what? We're standing right in the middle of it. So that's how I see it. Let me know your thoughts on this below, especially anybody who is a Bible scholar or grew up reading the Bible, or let me know. I like to hear from the real Christians who see this collapse for what it is. Leave your thoughts below. Thanks for being here, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I don't know how much longer this energetic mood of mine to address this stuff is going to go on. Part of it also is that I haven't been traveling a lot. It's been 6 or 8 weeks, and I haven't been doing a whole lot of traveling, so my energy is a lot better. It's a lot harder to do this and run a business and travel full time and do all the things that I do in my life. So when I'm rested up, I can do this. Yeah, that's how I see it. I'll talk to you soon.